Friends, it is Monday. Hello, how are you doing? I hope everyone is well. What a day in the market, a little bit of a slow day in the market, but let's talk about what happened here. So obviously Palantir came out with quarterlies here. SoFi had a really good day. SoFi is doing that thing, what I expected it to do, start moving up into some bigger numbers here, and we're going to see if it keeps trailing in that direction. So like I said, we'll talk about these two things, friends. Hi, I hope you are well. I really do mean that. I hope everyone is having a great Monday. Student loan situation kicked in today, which is one reason SoFi probably was doing well today. A lot of these bank stocks, bank lenders. Let's go right into Palantir here and talk about this. First things first, Palantir came out with quarterlies after market close today, and once again, they were great quarterlies. I mean, they were good. They were really good. Now, obviously, I think a lot of us thought that these were going to be at least in the $900 million range. Even who knows more than that. We were hoping for $1 billion, but undoubtedly, this is still really good. It's saying that probably by the end of this year, unless something major were to happen here, pushing it even further, we're gonna get to $1 billion quarterly here very soon with Palantir. And with this quarterly, it's still a fantastic quarterly. Palantir sold off here after hours, but Palantir is still going to hold some high numbers. I mean, it's still proof that Palantir is still growing. It's growing off of every quarterly. It's beating every expectation, and it's on track to continue to raise the valuation, to raise the capital of how much cash they have on hand, to what is going to be the level, the price action of SoFi here, of Palantir here, this time next year. What are we looking at down the road here? So with this too, Palantir being in this position right now, I made this very technical graph here, as you can see. I'm still very much in this road right now that Palantir is building a road to a high position here later this year, where Palantir could easily move into the summer at 130 to 150. Somewhere later in the year, especially once we get like into Q3 of this year, probably be in $900 million range at that point with quarterlies. We could be at 160 to 180. Who knows? If Palantir continues on this growth span that it's been on, you have to look at the numbers and what it's been knocking out here. I don't think this is too crazy to say this. Now, obviously, I'm an investor. I'm greedy. I want everything to go that direction. But obviously, too, this will depend on the movement of the market, and what 2 months from now are we going to be dealing with inflation situations, with these tariff situations that have kind of calmed down at the moment, but they undoubtedly will come back with some things here. Now, Palantir is in this situation right now where it just came out with another banking quarterly. Okay, they've raised their expectation of how much they're going to make this year. Now we're in this range where Palantir today sold off to what it's moving as I'm talking here, but around this 115 to 118 it's moving right now. So I do suspect that Palantir will play over $100 here for a moment. It was another great quarterly. It was just fantastic. A lot of people, like I said, we suspected. I started getting text messages from friends as soon as these things came out, like, I thought we were at least going to hit over 900. I would rather have this than it be the other way around, okay? So this is still great that they executed quarterlies, and it's fantastic. It's still showing growth in the company. Like I said, I still think that Palantir is going to continue this pattern, this Roman road that it's been making, the road to, $200 a share. And obviously there's people that have major price points of what they think Palantir is going to be, from 200 to 500 to even some people are saying $800. Now, of course, this is coming with some time attached to it, but saying that Palantir will go anywhere from 130 to 150 by summer, I don't think that is that crazy considering what we've been dealing with Palantir, because Palantir is famous at this point for finding these movements with itself right now, where we hit a new level with Palantir. When we hit $100, it was like, whoa, we just hit $100. Well, then we kept flushing over that 100. We went to 105, and then we touched 110, 115, 120. Now we're in this 125 and some change. Pretty much we're rounded up to 126. It's not going to take much more at this point to get to 130. And I think undoubtedly, once we see a better day in the market, we didn't have a super day in the market, especially with a lot of tech stocks, but that will probably change this week too, because we've got a lot more quarterlies to come out here. But Palantir will, I do believe it's selling off a little bit here, but it will run again. Do not be fooled by Palantir selling off here. Don't be fooled that bigger money is going to see this quarterly and they're going to be like, okay, this is what we want to see. This is great. And two, remember this, Palantir just wrapped up that NATO deal. Okay, there's a lot of deals they've been getting here that are going to be on Q2, Q3. Who knows what's coming down the pipeline with Q4 here. Palantir is still actively signing deals. They're still actively growing, bringing in wealth after wealth after wealth of contracts here. So, I don't want you to think that it wasn't even $1 billion. Palantir is going to $1 billion quarterly, from where if it keeps on this growth pattern, it's going to $1 billion quarterly. That's going to happen. And it will probably be this year. The FOMO, the hype, everything is still there with Palantir. People took profit later on at the end of the day here, but don't be shocked to see Palantir continue try to chisel away at high numbers here. I do believe it's coming 100%. With that, the situation is that I put some stuff up here anyone can read. There is so much stuff to read about what this contract had attached, or this quarterly had attached to it. Alex Karp I think he just hung up the phone on the earnings call. So Palantir right now, they are raising their price action on what they believe they're going to bring in this whole year. And obviously this will change probably every quarterly, because we're still, like I said, we're still seeing deals attached to it. So right now they're just under $4 billion for the whole year, what they expect to bring in. They're like at 3.9. Probably they'll hit $4 billion this year, more than likely, if they continue. This is just Q1 here. I mean, we're so early into the year. There's going to be more that's happening here. There's going to be more that's attached to what's going on here with Palantir, and undoubtedly the stock price will rise in that. So at the end of the day, this is great. This is great news. Palantir hit this quarterly. We're still seeing Palantir just continue to push into these new levels of earnings. Listen, there's not a lot of companies right now, especially that are so just have so much hype and so much enthusiasm around them, and that have a CEO that's attached to them right now that are just so popular and that are bringing in such massive amounts of money right now. So Palantir, and then on top of that, you have Alex Karp, who gives, I don't know how many interviews in 1 week, but two is in the White House. I mean, these defense contracts more than likely are not going to stop with Palantir. They're going to continue to grow 100%. And I think they're going to morph into other things too, even with, Palantir, Tesla working together, essentially Elon Musk and Alex Karp working together. We know there's partnership, there's a relationship there. I think everyone should be excited about what we're seeing here. I would not be shocked to see Palantir play around with people's emotions, where we do see this little trickle down, the sell-off, and then out of nowhere we're going to see some high price action come up with Palantir here very soon, where we more than likely will chip away at 130. I believe 130 is going to start to be chipped away here. It's just a question of when. Is it going to be this week, next week, the week after that? It's interesting what the market's doing right now. Like I said, the student loan situation hit today, and we had some other news too. Tariff news is starting to come back up here a little bit too, with what that's going to bring later on this year. So we just saw the market get a little scared today, and today So we just saw the market get a little scared, and two, we're having this meeting this week with the Fed's Jerome Powell. Are we going to have rate cuts? More than likely, no, because we know Jerome Powell does not want rate cuts right now. And, then we have Trump, who is demanding rate cuts. And essentially at this point, he said he is done with Jerome Powell. He's going to get rid of him no matter what. He's not going to get rid of him right now, but Jerome is leaving, next year. So, Trump's going to get someone in there who's going to essentially be his, his guy that does what he says. It's very interesting right now. It's very interesting right now what's going on with this market. It's doing what a lot of people did not think it was going to do. But undoubtedly, I do think that, protect yourself where you're at with your finances with this too, because, a lot of situations could arise here with this tariff news here later in like the beginning of July when this 90-day holdup is done and we start to see tariff news start to come up here again. That's probably going to happen more than not. So friends, Palantir, I think it's still a fantastic investment, undoubtedly. I'm curious to see what it does this week, what the levels adjust out to. But like I said, I wouldn't be shocked to see Palantir start to run a little bit more. And two, it's very interesting that after hours here, Palantir has sold off to this 113, 112 position. If that's the new level on Palantir, even at 110, 105, $105, $110, that's freaking nuts. That's freaking nuts. But it's telling us that, what are we seeing with this? We're seeing this new, mountain form here with Palantir. Palantir is not going to sell back down to 170, 180 just, because people are like, it just wasn't as big as quarterly as I was hoping for. No. Big money's not going to allow it, okay? You have to realize that Palantir is in the S&P 500. Palantir is in, a lot of ETFs now. Palantir is still, on this huge growth cycle right now. And, there's a lot of meat left on the bone here. So with that, Palantir is, it's only going to sell off so much here just with the, average day-to-day market. Okay, it's gonna, when we had this tariff news arise here and the market sold off here back at the beginning of April, Palantir just sold off to at $70 at the most. I think we touched like 69 and some change for like a split second, but that was really the worst we saw with Palantir here. So it's going to take something drastic to make Palantir even get back to $80 at this point, okay? Because Palantir has proved that Q1 of this year so far is proving to be fantastic. In Q2, it could have a lot more going on than what we expect here. Like I said, the NATO deal, other deals are rising, and who knows what is going to happen here any day. Palantir keeps coming out with huge deals here. Okay, that is something that should worry people in the sense of like, I don't think the market's going to get away from you, but I do think Palantir could get away from people. People could be somewhat tricked with Palantir selling off here, where they go, well, Palantir will probably sell back down to $70 here. It was at $70 here just the beginning of April. It was at $70 because the market sold off, and that was the worst we could get out of Palantir. So it's telling us there's a huge wall of money at $70, $80, okay? There's a huge pile of money blocking Palantir from going any further down, okay? Contracts, everything. So with that, the new levels, the most sell-off that we could see here with Palantir could be somewhere, $90, and that's freaking insane. But I think even Palantir, for a long period staying under $100 is probably pretty tough. I think your low hundreds may just be the new normal here for Palantir. That I can't even believe I'm saying that, but that's crazy because 6-7 months ago that was not the case with Palantir. We were talking back in January, back in September of 2024, we were looking at Palantir at $30 to $40, $50, and even then people were going, well, there's no way Palantir is going to go to $100. Well, $100 is maybe the new normal at this point. It may just be the new normal. So yeah, that's really how I'm visually seeing Palantir at this point right now. And just hinting on SoFi, so we look at the other side of a coin here, and you have SoFi, who essentially is a bank stock, and obviously student loans are attached to that. And then you have SoFi, who's just completely transformed themselves into this mega company. Went from during COVID they were destroyed, then they worked their way back up into these high numbers. Now SoFi itself, within this year, next year, will undoubtedly move into $1 billion quarterly range, but just came out with another banging quarterly. And by the end of this year, we could be in 800 million, maybe touching $900 million in quarterlies, per quarterly. What SoFi is doing as well on the other side of business, it's growing. It's growing at a alarming rate to where it's getting a lot of people's attention right now. Now, SoFi is famous for coming out with quarterlies, selling off, kind of people lose, they lose sight of it for a moment, and then it starts to work up into a new high number. So SoFi had a pretty good day today. It touched $13 and some change again today. So I would not be shocked to see SoFi, as long as the market allows things to stay somewhat stable here. SoFi could easily play around this high $12 position and start working into $13, and who knows, start moving up from there. So I think a lot of us, if you've been here with SoFi, you've seen this time and time again. SoFi is such a creature of habit to where it just sneaks up into these high levels. It finds a new high level, and then, something happens in the market and it starts trickling down. And then we have this new ballpark of, okay, maybe the new levels for SoFi now are, $13 to $16, somewhere in that situation. So that could be the new normal here coming out with SoFi right now. SoFi is making great money. They're making great headway on what they do as a company right now. So I don't think that people should take their eyes off SoFi. It's a fantastic investment, especially with what could be coming here in the future with SoFi. There's a lot to be said that could be unveiled here with SoFi. And just to touch on BigBear, BigBear sold off a little bit today, but BigBear's still holding this $3 position. So this is very interesting. Obviously, make a long story short here, BigBear last week came out with their quarterlies. They missed, but they were still really close, and they were better than what I thought they were going to be honest. Like, I knew they weren't going to hit the quarterly, but they were closer to hitting the quarterly than they usually are. So it was bad news with this shade of, well, look at the other side of the coin here, if you will, and it's actually a little shinier than we thought it would be here on that side. So it's a mixed bag of emotions. Now, obviously, too, every time you look up BigBear, what's the main thing you see? Contact this law firm if BigBear has done you wrong, and we will help you get your money back, essentially. So this is going to be going on here until the summer, until this is wrapped up here with this lawsuit situation. Now, once this is done and wrapped up, it probably will be a lot better for BigBear, because this news will not be cycling every day with these law firms buying these articles, putting these articles up and running them and trying to get people to say, like, hey, yeah, I bought stock back then. Yeah, I'm so upset about it. Now, obviously, if you're affected by it, that's a real thing. But, I think a lot of us that are focus laser beam on BigBear, we're hoping, obviously, too, that this gets wrapped up and that BigBear continues on this path of accumulating these contracts, accumulating government defense contracts, and to just other out-of-pocket contracts that we have no idea that they're coming down the road here. So all in all, friends, I think it was a pretty good day in the market. A little bit of a boring day besides Palantir coming out with their news here. Tomorrow, we've got more earnings. This whole week is a huge week of earnings. AMD will be reporting earnings this week, and a lot of other handful of stocks that we talk about here. So, friends, like I said, it's going to be a good week. I wish everyone the best of luck, and we will talk soon here. And I'm very curious to see what these new levels are going to be for Palantir, how it's going to run, how it's going to react this week. It's going to be very interesting. This is going to be very interesting territory for Palantir, new territory for Palantir, where it has this other piece of evidence that, like, hey, we're going in the right direction, and things are going good over here. So, friends, take care of yourself. Bye, everyone.